What's going on, guys? Welcome back to Podcast 129. My name is Hunter Waldrop, and to my right is Mr. Tyler Vaughn. No Jake for this episode tonight. He's a busy man, and so we are just it's just going to be us two tonight, and we are going to recap the Week 5 slate. The weekend that'll go down is probably the most stacked weekend of college football, maybe in our lifetimes, like if for regular season games. Also, full MLB slate. Excuse me. We had the Ryder Cup, all of it. So really fun weekend. Tyler, how are you doing? And what was your just outlook on the entire sports weekend?
Living the dream in the sports world, man. Ryder Cup is always fun to watch. Get a little bit of a national pride for that one. So always love that when it's time for the Ryder Cup. Baseball, it was crunch time. Everybody's trying to clinch a spot in the playoffs. That's always great. Shout out to the Reds for kicking the shitty Mets out of the playoffs. Screw those douchebags up in New York. And then college football. It doesn't get much better than this past weekend. A lot of craziness going on, a lot of big games. I loved it. I had a great week of watching sports.
Yeah, absolutely. Great weekend. I was in Dallas with one of my best friends from school and his dad. We had a great time just watching ball all weekend long, and even got to catch a little bit of the Ryder Cup. That one, we shouldn't have to wait till the very last day to make it competitive.
Yeah.
Sucks. Obviously, want Team America to win. Some are asking, is Scotty Scheffler for America, or is he just for himself? Some are asking. Anyways, all jokes aside, it is time to get into the Week 5 recap here. And yeah, these two right here, if you're watching on YouTube, Mr. Ty Simpson and Dante Moore, definitely the two biggest stories of the weekend. But before we get into that, since Jake's not here, I will do the social media today. We do have 3 social media accounts. We have Instagram, X, and TikTok. On Instagram and X, we are at podcast_129, and at TikTok at podcast.129. I do run the Instagram, try and be active 7 days out of the week, posting our stuff and other things going on in the world of college football. Twitter, hit or miss. It just depends on the weekend. We are busy men. And then, as Jake says every episode, he's a busy man. He's trying his best on TikTok, but we would appreciate follows and all that. And then obviously we are here on YouTube, and we just ask that you leave a like on the video, subscribe, and leave a comment at the end. Whether you agree with us or not, we would love to interact with whoever. And, subscriptions are free on YouTube. So, when your sister, your mom, or your brother, whoever is, not paying attention to their phone, just go to YouTube, hit the subscribe button on Podcast 129. Without further ado, it's time to roll right into the Week 5 recap. Game number 1, I said that this was the biggest game of the weekend, and it was number 6 Oregon traveling coast to coast, literally, to number 3 Penn State in Happy Valley, and Oregon gets it done in double overtime, 30-24. Man, what a game this was. Dan Lanning, Dante Moore. Dante Moore for his first true big-time road start, and his first road start at all at Oregon. It was almost like there was no pressure on this guy. He played dang near flawless. Oregon their defense played great for 3.5 quarters. Obviously, there in the fourth quarter got gassed. But the reason I said this was the biggest game of the weekend was because this had everything on the line for James Franklin, right? This game was more than just another big game for James Franklin. This was the team that he's been building to, all the experience in the world, returning production all across the board. And it was just Oregon, they're fresh, they're new, lots of new pieces, younger head coach, traveling coast to coast. This has got to be the one that James Franklin gets. And once again, James Franklin comes up short. He is now 4-21 against top 10 opponents at his time at Penn State. And, man, this one just felt different. It didn't just feel they lost to Ohio State, or they lost to a really good Michigan team. This one feels like it's going to have one of two side effects, side outcomes from it. One being man, they got a tough 3-game stretch where they got to play Ohio State, Iowa, and Indiana. At Ohio State, at Iowa, and then they play Indiana. And that it can go downhill real fast, or as you can, if you're watching on YouTube, you can see the box score here. I mean, Penn State scored 14 points in the fourth quarter. Their offense turned it on, came out of nowhere. I mean, they were dead to rights for a while, and they turned it on, and it's like, well, now I know what we got. Maybe if we just do this little thing different, this little thing different, like we can compete with these guys, and maybe it propels them. And just like Alabama, like maybe their loss to Florida State was the best thing that could have happened to them, because that was the best of Alabama's played on the road all year. Not to get sidetracked to another game, but Tyler, what were your thoughts on Oregon beating Penn State?
So didn't really get to watch this game. I watched some highlights from it. I thought Drew Aller did not look very good at all, which is concerning to me. He's supposed to be the guy with all this experience, and I was high on him going into the season. I know most of the country was high on that guy going into the season. I don't think he played very well. Obviously, in the fourth quarter, they, like you said, Hunter, they turned it on and was able to make it a game again. And I like to see that. I like to see the fight. I know that that's really cliche, but they hung in there. They played tough, and that's what you have to do that if you're the number 3 team in the country. I don't care who you're playing. If you're down 17-3, or excuse me, if you're down by a score going into the fourth, you gotta play tough and hang in there and do your best you can, which they did. So I like the resiliency that they showed, because they could have kind of laid over and they hadn't done anything throughout the game. So I like that out of them. The James Franklin thing, I think that this is going to be similar to the Alabama, except just on a higher scale. Like, this is your wake-up call if you're Penn State. You are one of the favorites to win the Natty this year. Like, you have so much talent. You have so much experience, and it's now or never for James Franklin. So I think this will be a wake-up for him. I'm still not jumping off of the Penn State ship that I was on preseason. I still think that they absolutely compete for the national title. But we'll see. One thing I do want to say on the Oregon side, like, yeah, you played a solid game up until that fourth quarter, but Dan Lanning, you better watch the hell out saying the game's over, because if you would have lost that game, it'd have been your ass for doing whatever the hell he did on the sideline and the going into the fourth or whenever that hell that happened. If they would have lost, that'd have been really funny to make fun of. And he just better watch out. That's all I'm gonna say. I like the energy, but shit, if they would have lost this game after he did that, oh man. I think Oregon's a really good football team, though. I didn't think they were gonna be able to hang in there in this game. I thought they were gonna lose by. I didn't think it was gonna be this close, and I thought Penn State was gonna kind of run away with it. So they proved to me that their defense is solid. Their offense is good enough to get it done against a good defense like Penn State, which what does that tell you about Oregon? Is their offense good enough to get it done and win the big one? I don't know. We'll see. But I think Oregon is a solid team, and they are freaking rolling right now. So I'm excited to see what they've got upcoming.
Yeah, man. Yeah, you brought up a good point. Like, can they win the big one? Well, they definitely know how to win big regular season games, right? Like, they beat Ohio State last year in the regular season. They beat Penn State this year in the regular season. So, like, Dan Lanning is definitely tracking upwards, right? So, but with that said, they ran the table last year. They looked like the best team in the country, far and none. And then they get to the playoffs and they got mollywopped all across the field in the Rose Bowl. So, going to be very interesting to see, like, all right, Dan, you've shown us that you can do it in the regular season, and like their schedule is rather favorable the rest of the way through. I think they got Oregon left. Or not Oregon, Indiana. I mean, they got Indiana coming to Eugene, though. So outside of that, I don't think they have too many major bumps in the road that draw concern for me. So I think they will run the table, but they got to show some playoff success, right? So we'll see. As far as James Franklin goes, man, like, this is the same story every year. Really good defense, offense mediocre to just plain out bad. And Drew Aller started playing good in the fourth quarter. Your running backs played good. Like, it's the same story. So something's going to have to change. I'm not off the Penn State train yet because you and I both picked them to win the national title in the preseason. So we'll see how it turns out for them. Not totally off yet, but like I said, I either think it's going to propel them to go 11-1, 10-2, or it's going to be it might fall off a cliff where they lose 4 games this year. So we'll see. Very interesting team. Shout out to Oregon. They look like a top 2 team in the country right now. So, and we now take your attention to Athens, Georgia, where the Crimson Tide rolled in there and win again, 24-21. What is Kirby Smart now? 1-9, 1-10 against Alabama during his tenure at Georgia. Now, I know everybody wants to listen to us recap this game. However, Tyler and I decided it was only fair to do this when Jake was on here. Because as everybody is very well aware with the text messages I receive, he's obviously the biggest Georgia fan. He's a student there. That's where his money goes, where he was born and raised. So, he's going to get his 2 cents in. So if you want to hear the Alabama-Georgia recap, you're going to have to listen to the Week 6 preview episode that'll go up after this. And Jake and I, and maybe Tyler, depending on his schedule, will definitely be filming that here shortly. So I have a lot to say, but Tyler and I both agreed, hey, Jake's got to be on here for this because he's the entertainment when it comes to Georgia football. Can't get the guys shut up about it sometimes. Love him to death. So with that said, listen to the Week 6 preview if you want to hear our thoughts on the Georgia-Alabama game from Week 5. So we're going to skip over that one. And now we're going to take you to Oxford, Mississippi, where that man on the right, if you're watching on YouTube, Trinidad Chambliss. And I do want to say, I went back and listened to the Week 5 preview, and I kept calling this man Chaz Chambliss, and nobody decided to correct me. I kept calling him Chaz Chambliss, the former defensive end from the University of Georgia. This is Trinidad Chambliss. So if I say that, please help me out here. But Trinidad Chambliss, Lane Kiffin, this is typically a game they lose. They usually win the high-scoring bouts, but man, Pete Golden, that defense locked in, dropped 8 every time on obvious third down passing situations and get it done defensively. Trinidad gets it done on the ground, and Lacey, I thought he played great at running back. And shout out to Ole Miss, man. They're looking like a top 10 team in the country right now. And we all thought it was going to be behind Austin Simmons. And we get D2 Trinidad Chambliss coming in there getting the big win. I don't see why he shouldn't be the starter from here on out. So, Tyler, what were your takeaways from this game? Because I know you picked LSU to win.
Yeah, so I think that Nussmeier, there's something off. I think that he's not playing the way he's supposed to. I read the other day that he supposedly tore an oblique during camp. I don't know if I believe that's what it is, but there's something off. He did not look great. But shout out Trinidad Chambliss, man. I said it last week, D2 national champion last year, coming from Ferris State. I love that. This guy might be my new favorite player in the whole freaking country because he's a smaller school product. And he's legit. When do you put him in the conversation for the Heisman if he stays in there? Because he's better than Austin Simmons.
He's got tied second best odds to win the Heisman right now.
There it is. He's in the conversation. I think that that's very reasonable. I think that he's a absolute freaking dog. He plays his heart out, and he makes throws that he needs to make. He knows when to tuck the ball and run. He knows when he needs to get down when he is running also. So I really like watching him play. I think Ole Miss has got a really good team. My question is, when's it? Same thing I feel about Miami, and you've heard me say it all year. When's it going to happen where Ole Miss loses one they're not supposed to? Because it happens every year. Lane Kiffin will at some point slip up, and they'll lose one they're not supposed to, and then typically they implode a little bit. So I'm kind of waiting on that to happen. I'm not going to be all in on Ole Miss yet, but I think they are a very good football team, a dangerous football team. I think when this is a little farther on down the road, but when they come into Athens, that's going to be a hell of a matchup. LSU, you got to come up with a couple more big stops on defense. I know that Your defense didn't play terrible, but you let up some plays that you shouldn't have, and in the end, that's what got you. Lane Kiffin got the best of Weeks, but I think that this game shows us a couple things. One, Ole Miss they're legit. Again, I'm not going all in, but they're legit. Two, there's gaps in that LSU team that we did not see preseason that are starting to be exposed. And I think that those gaps are, one, something's up with your quarterback because he's not playing like he's supposed to. And two, your defense is solid, but they're not a brick wall because there's holes in that defense, and it's starting to be exposed. So I think that's my takeaway from this game.
Yeah, as far as LSU goes, I've also read that Garrett Nussmeier's been dealing with some sort of injury since fall camp, like even before the Clemson game. And obviously, we've been saying every time Clemson loses, it makes LSU look worse. And we kind of put them on a pedestal. And now it's like, ooh, how are we actually feeling about LSU the rest of the way through the year? My biggest concern with them is that they cannot run the football. Like, it was so obvious. It doesn't matter who they play. They can't run the football. Ole Miss got them in a lot of third and longs, third and mediums, obvious passing downs, and they just dropped 8 back and kept everything in front of them. So shout out to Lane because I was very skeptical about that defense. And so they got it done. Very interested to see where LSU goes from here. You brought up a good point. Like, where will Ole Miss slip up at, right? So I'm going to read off their schedule, okay? And I would like for you to tell me where you think that might fall. So this week they have a bye week. Next week they play Washington State at home. Very random spot. Then they come to Athens, and I don't like playing at Georgia doesn't mean anything after they lose. Like it just goes to show, like it still is hard. I'm not trying to say it's not hard, but the luster gets taken away after this past weekend. But you are on mute, by the way, so I was just letting you know if you wanted to speak up or something. Okay. Then they go on the road to Oklahoma in a game where I think John Mateer will be playing in. I think that's October 25th. John Mateer should be back by then.
That's where it's going to happen.
Then they come back home. They play South Carolina, and then they play the Citadel. They play Florida at home, and then they finish with the Egg Bowl. And Mississippi State looks like a really good team. So there's still room on this schedule for 3 potential losses. So very interesting to look at. But shout out to the Rebels, man. Big win. Moving on, this was our biggest upset of the week, in my opinion, at least. You have unranked Virginia, who is now 4-1 and 2-0 in ACC play. On a Friday night in Charlottesville, Virginia, they welcome in the undefeated Florida State Seminoles, a team that everybody thought they're so low on, and beats Alabama week 1 in Tallahassee. They go into Charlottesville, lose in double overtime, 46-38. An absolute shootout of a game, especially in the first half. Turnovers all over the place, but Chandler Morris, I know he had at least 3, maybe 4 rushing touchdowns at the quarterback position. One of the last like COVID year extra redshirt guys, like 6th or 7th year players that we'll see in football. And man, the veteran leadership looks like it got it done. Big win for Tony Elliott and Virginia. And now Florida State's got to go back home and host Miami next week. And really fun game. Really fun game. It just kind of shows that, like, if Florida State, if they can't run the ball the way that they need to and they get put in a lot of passing downs, you can't trust Tommy C's arm like that in these types of games. So, Tyler, any added takeaways from this one?
Yeah, Chandler Morris, what a guy. He's a baller. He ran all around the field. He made throws when he needed to. And this game had me really, really angry waking up Saturday morning after, because I had a nice little parlay cooked up. Florida State was the first one, and then it went downhill from there. But Florida State, I was super confident in going into this week. I didn't think Virginia was as good as they are.
You blew the triple option this week.
Yeah, right. Yeah, thank you for reminding me. So, like I was saying, I had a nice little parlay cooked up with Florida State. They ruined it. And so I'm off the Florida State train. Think you got lucky against Alabama. Think it's simple as that. Screw you, Florida State. I'm done with you. I think that Castellanos, yeah, you're a good ball player. He made some really insane throws like that. That throw he had in the corner of the end zone, was it the overtime period? Man, he put that thing on the money. What was the receiver's name? Deuce Robinson or whatever the hell his name is. Yeah, you screwed up, bro. That was bad. And I think Florida State wins that game if he catches that ball. Right? That was the situation, right? Yeah. That guy screwed up. You got to catch that ball. You're playing at a major school like Florida State. That's just embarrassing. But you can say that about other guys that we saw multiple times this weekend. Alabama had Williams, the Georgia receiver, the freshman kid, and then Deuce Robinson. So, maybe I'm just crazy for thinking that you got to catch that ball. But Chandler Morris, you're a good ball player. I'm not going to – I still don't think Virginia is very good. I think Florida State was really overhyped after they beat Alabama. Yeah, they beat Alabama, who was supposed to be really good coming into the year and looks good now. But, upsets happen. And you see teams that we know aren't very good upset to other teams all the time. And I think that was what the case was. So I'm off that Florida State train. I can't do it anymore.
I think Virginia's offense is really, really good. Their defense obviously has had a lot of concerns this entire year, so they're going to be in a lot of shootouts. I'm not off Florida State train, man. Like, I think, these games come down to matchups and the spots of the schedule and everything. This just honestly was a bad spot, and I think they match up well against Alabama, whereas, like, there's plenty of worlds out there, and we're living in one right now where, like, Alabama matches up better against Georgia than they do Florida State. So I'm not off the train, but shout out to Virginia for getting it done. And here are quick hitters from the week. I only got eyes on I got eyes on 3 of the 4. I did not watch Texas A&M Auburn. I was too busy indulged in Ohio State Washington, as Washington just kept teasing me like they were going to actually do something. They never could punch the ball in the end zone, even though they had multiple opportunities, and so disappointing. Because I can see it out there. Like, they have the talent. I might just been a year early on them. But I still think Damon Williams is great. They also their penalties. They had a lot of penalties in that game. So, but Ohio State, just a straight up ground and pound, just letting them know we're better than you in the trenches. But it sucks because I was very high on Washington going into this year. I still think they'll win 8 games, maybe 9. But man, they got a lot of energy. Injuries, not as physical up front as I thought they would be, but I know they're also playing Ohio State. They could still have a very good season. So there's definitely a lot of potential there. Tyler, did you get any eyes on that game?
I did not. I was at work all day Saturday, and we were pretty busy for a while there. So I did not have eyes on this one. Going back and looking at it, Ohio State was just the better team.
Yeah.
I mean, shout out to your pick on Washington. I think they're a good football team, but not quite ready to compete with Ohio State yet. And it was just kind of obvious Saturday from what I've looked at. So, yeah, short and simple.
Absolutely. I did not get eyes on A&M Auburn. Like I said, I was locked in on that Washington game. But it looks like, what I did see is that Peyton Thornton took a lot of sacks again, and that he is still struggling to get the ball out. But Texas A&M's defense played just really well. That's the thing is, I don't know if this is product of Texas A&M's defense just being really good, just like Oklahoma last week, or if this is just a common denominator with Auburn's offense. But I said it. I think I said it last week, but I don't know if I said it out loud on this show. But I think Auburn has or I think Jake said it. Auburn has a 10-11 win roster with a 6-win quarterback. So, but shout out to the Aggies, another big win at home, and now they got another home game this week, and they are hosting Mississippi State Bulldogs, and we'll get to them in a second. Tyler, you got anything to add on this one?
Yeah, this is another game that I didn't have a chance to watch. The same thing's kind of repeating itself for Auburn. You have a great team. You just got to put everything together, and they're just not quite there yet. I think that Jackson Arnold's a good football player, but he's got some stuff he's got to figure out before I call him a great one. A&M's legit. I think that to beating a team like Auburn's never easy. They're one of the teams that's always going to hang in there, and when you can take care of business, that's always good, especially with a pesky team like Auburn. So that's kind of all I got. Again, I didn't have a chance to watch this one.
Now, I did get to watch Illinois taking on USC. USC once again traveling 2-3 time zones out to the Midwest and still proving that when they play a team with a pulse that they struggle to win these cross-country road trips. And shout out to Illinois for getting off the mat, man. I think Luke Altmyer played great. I think Brett Bielema, way to get your team off the mat after getting blown out the week before and coming back home, finding a way to win the game. They probably should have won this game by more than just 2 points. But needless to say, they still got it done. I think, man, USC's it just looked like they were just a little bit behind, a little slow. It was definitely the worst I've seen Jaden Mayava play, but I still think he's a really good quarterback. Still think their offense is good. But it's just that cross-country travel spot. Defense was a little shaky. Offense was not as productive as always. And I was starting to buy a little bit of stock in USC. We're like, wow, they might be right there at it at the end. But I think this game really is more about Illinois and Brett Bielema getting them off the mat, and then Luke Altmyer's leadership and playing like a dog on Saturday at noon. So shout out to the Illini who still have everything in front of them.
Another game that I did not have a chance to watch. I don't think I watched a single one of these games on Saturday, to be honest with you. So kind of going in blind here just from what I've seen. I think USC's got a good football team. Jaden Mayava is a really great quarterback. But Illinois had to bounce back. That's freaking huge for them. They had to. They didn't have a choice. So I think that, that gives them life. Like you said, still everything ahead of them. So we'll see what happens there. We'll see what plays out. But I think that game was more important for Illinois than it was for USC because they had to bounce back. They didn't have a choice, and they took care of business.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And then finally, Tennessee caught in a little bit of a weird road spot. And Mississippi State was not a team that anybody had circled for this year starting. Now, I did say they were not going to be the worst team in the SEC, but they were going to be right there towards the bottom. And, man, now they're looking like an easy bowl team. I know they don't have an easy schedule, but this is the same Tennessee team that was a field goal away from beating Georgia. And Mississippi State takes them to OT, was winning for a good majority of this game and just – a few turnovers within the game and just lost it in OT. But they're growing fast. Jeff Lebby's got some good stuff going on down there. And, man, I just got to give him a shout out because I think this is now definitely a bowl team. I think they'll find at least 2 more wins on the schedule. That Starkville is looking like a very tough place to play. And I think Mississippi State's bound to have a great season this year. And as far as Tennessee goes, man, going on the road, never easy, especially when you get down early and you finding a way to win the game. That's all that matters, that you won the game. Still get everything in front of you with a much lighter schedule than Mississippi State. So everything's still in front of Tennessee. And even though it didn't look ugly and there's not a number next to Mississippi State's name, this is still a really good win for the Vols.
Yeah, my kind of theme for tonight's been resiliency, and Tennessee showed that. Tough spot in that game. You obviously you don't want to be in the overtime game with Mississippi State, who's been the laughingstock of the SEC for the past since I can remember. It seems like, but I think that Mississippi State is, like you said, they're building something over there. Jeff Lebby's got it going on. I know that I personally was hoping that they would win that. I think that would have been awesome for that program to get that done and to win that game, but obviously they don't. Shout out to Tennessee for fighting through that one and getting it done. figuring out a way. Then that's what you got to do when you're the top 15 in the country. So shout out to them. But I'm excited to see what Mississippi State has for a lot of these big teams that they're going to play for throughout the rest of the year.
Absolutely. Well, guys, that was short and sweet and to the point. It's been a long day for us here, but we hit on everything that we felt the need to. So thank you guys for listening. It's a shorter episode, so I'm sure there's many people out there that'll probably appreciate that and actually listen to the whole thing this time. So like always, make sure you subscribe to us on YouTube, leave a like I said at the beginning of the video. We are also on Apple and Spotify, and now I'm pretty sure you can leave a 5-star review or leave reviews for us on there. So if you are ever in your spare time and want to critique us or praise us on either of those two platforms, that'd be greatly appreciated. Don't forget to follow us on social media. And guys, always remember this: there are things bigger than football out there. God first, and God bless.